Hello, Facebook. I believe I am live. And how are you? I'm just going to queue up a couple things here. Today there's a comment on my blog post I wanted to do a quick video shout out to. This is one of the more popular posts. Well, obviously, if somebody's commenting on it, it means people are reading it. And it's about 3 steps to get your partner to join you in couples counseling. So I'm just going to pull up my live stream real quick. And who is that? Jen! Hey! How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. I'm actually just going to share this over in my Facebook group. So bear with me for a second. Thank you for being here, Jen. Let's see. Sharing a group. Everything on live. It's like I feel bad. I'm live. I'm taking up bandwidth, but let me just share this over. So we're going to be talking about how to convince. The original post is how to convince your partner to get help with you. The original post is about how to convince 3 steps to convince your partner to join you in couples therapy. It's great to see you, Jen. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a quick summary of the post itself, and then I'm going to read this person's comment and respond. So 3 steps to get your partner to join you in couples therapy. The first step that I covered was be careful with the when and how. You don't want to just, blast this on them in the middle of a fight. You don't want to be like, oh, I hate you. We need serious help. Like, let's get therapy. That's not going to go over too well, right? So be careful. And, as they say, you catch more bees with honey, right? And, one of the problems with any kind of argument that you might be having is that we so often approach it from a sort of secondary, surfacey, more defensive place because, there's vulnerability involved. It's difficult. But to really, if you really want to work on the relationship, if you really want to get help for it, then to go a little bit, sink a little bit deeper with yourself, really ask, let them know, hey, you're really important to me. This is something that I would love for us to get help with, as opposed to being like, I think we need help, because that's never going to get you anywhere. Be vulnerable. It's really hard to do that, especially if you're already in a strained relationship, because you're taking a big risk. You're putting yourself out there. You're extending an olive branch. It's really hard to do, but that's really important. The tone. You don't do it when you're angry. Make sure, you're calm. You can set aside and say, hey, there's something I want to talk to you about, and then talk about it, and hopefully your partner will be like, yeah, I think we're having problems. I think we could use some help. That's great. The second part of the second step that I advocate is to, own that you're part of the problem. And look, it's not that this is anybody's fault, but you guys are stuck in a pattern together if things are not working in your relationship, and it's up to both of you to get out of it. It's never just one person's fault, because if that were the case, and if it was all that your partner just sucks, then you'd be out of the relationship, right? So I think it's very important to own that, look, even if you don't know what your part is, which is probably the case, you could say, I really want to, address this. I want to make this better for both of us, and own your part, even if you don't know what it is. Just own that you have a part. It can go a long way. And then the third step, obviously, it's maybe a little bit more complicated than this, but the third step, Jen says, hold on, I'm reading this. Luckily, I don't need this help now. I know it's awesome, but could have used it 16 years ago, LOL. But it's valuable to have the info to share. Both people have to be going in the same direction for sure. Oh man, you know it. Well, I'm so glad you don't need this now. But it's important to, really be in it to win it together, right? So let them know that. And then the third step that I mentioned in the post was to educate and appreciate. So what do I mean by that? I mean to let your partner, so many people think that, oh, we're going to couples therapy because you want to break up with me, or, oh, people who aren't married, if you're going to couples therapy because you want to create a solid foundation, maybe you do have some things that get in the way of each other. I think it's a great thing to do to build a solid foundation, but many people would say, oh, that means you're doomed if you have to go to couples therapy this early. But, it's a conscious choice that you do to get help, right? I mean, every successful person has a team of people that help them. Every athlete has a coach. It's that sort of thing. So if that's the case, right? I mean, more often than not, people are in not a good place when they want to go see a couples therapist. So that's probably the case if you responded to this post on the blog. Also appreciate your partner and let them know how much you appreciate them and how much you value your relationship. This kind of goes along with the first step. But lastly, let them know educate them about couples therapy itself. Some of the myths that I want to debunk real quickly is that couples therapy will take forever. It's just about venting. You just talk about your childhood. If you work with the right kind of couples therapist, that is not the case. It can be short-term, focused. If you need a couples therapist, if anybody's watching this and you need help, I urge you, go to ICEEFT.com, and there's a Find a Therapist tab. Emotionally focused couples therapy has been it's just shown up head and shoulders above other. It's just really, really good, okay? It's just really, really good. It's a short-term focused approach that explains how relationships work, and it works. It's really good. And it's short-term, so that's part of it. You don't have to be there for years. You're not going to be talking about your childhood over and over again. Educate them. And the other piece is that the couples therapist isn't going to take sides. Some people think, oh, well, my wife's a woman and you're a woman, so you guys are going to team up against me. That is so common. That's such a common myth. It's not going to happen. Well, I mean, hopefully. I've heard horror stories, but if you're seeing an EFT therapist, it's not going to happen. If you're seeing a good therapist, it's not going to happen. So the other piece is that, going to therapy, people think it makes them crazy. It's not the case. It's about really just, being more conscious, being more self-aware, and taking steps necessary to create your best life, your best relationship. Obviously, a strong relationship is part of that. Jen says, yes, it's always good to want to experience growth together, and therapy can help with achieving all goals in a partnership. Absolutely. Just even the act itself of making time to sit and talk and take yourself out of your lives and look at things with a third party, an expert who knows about relationships and emotions and can facilitate that conversation, is fantastic. I love it, Jen. Thank you for sharing that. So one person responded, this was about a year ago, they said, and I responded to that, but they said there's one piece that I missed out, which is very true, and I want to share that too. Another step is to ask, why didn't you have a good experience in couple? Why don't you want to go to couples therapy? Why don't you want to go to therapy with me, right? That's important. And they mentioned that that maybe they had a horrible experience in the past. And I'll tell you a story. I actually, I saw a couple, and actually this happens more than you'd realize, where people have had horrible experiences with therapists in the past. And, just because I go see a bad doctor who treated me like, some kind of object, that does not mean that I'm ruling out the entire medical professional. It doesn't mean that if, I had a bullet wound, I wouldn't go have somebody sew it up, right? My bullet wound maybe because I'm talking about couples therapy, and that's sort of an analogy that comes up sometimes. But, don't, just because you had a bad experience, and this is a piece to kind of like educate somebody with as well. If your partner is sworn off against it because they had a horrible experience, talk to them, say, let's just try, let's just, maybe get them on the phone with somebody so that they can feel them out. It is really important that they feel comfortable with the person. And if they've had horrible experiences in the past, which I'm sorry, many people have had, to feel the potential therapist out is key. All right, so now I'm going to get to the actual question. I know I've been rambling a bit. The actual question is, and this is in response to the person who said, maybe they don't want to, ask them why they didn't want to see a therapist. This is what she says. Well, I definitely did not approach counseling again very gently. I'm wife number 3, and from his point of view, the craziest one of all. We've been through counseling at church. We've been to other forms of Christian counseling. I've recently found one last attempt at couples therapy, but he's refusing to go because they're not a psychiatrist. I don't understand that. I can admit that I have anxiety and battle it tremendously. When my life is instantly thrown upside down, I don't handle it well, and I tend to get very upset at the situation. I do come back and apologize, although I know I need to do even better. He says he has no problem except me. Is it a lost cause? All right. So I can't tell you if it's a lost cause or not, based on what you're sharing with me because I don't know your partner, but I'm going to go out on the limb and say it's not a lost cause. Because why? Because maybe it's not, right? I mean, if he's got divorce papers ready and he's saying I can't do it, no matter what you say or do, that's it. It's over. It's a lost cause. I'm not hearing that from you. I'm not. If you're, I'm not looking at the actual thread right now. I'm looking at the post. So, first of all, they say he's refusing to see a therapist unless they're a psychiatrist. I'm not sure if you mean psychologist or marriage and family therapist. I would not recommend a psychiatrist. Not necessarily. I mean, 9 out of 10 of them I would not recommend for couples therapy because psychiatrists' wheelhouse is prescribing medication. I mean, now look, some may have training, some may have that kind of expertise, which is fine, then go see the psychiatrist. But more often than not, you're going to want to see a psychologist, a licensed clinical social worker, a marriage and family therapist, somebody who not only is a licensed psychotherapist, but is also someone who specializes in couples therapy. Now, that's not really the point here. The point is that you don't understand why he wants you to go see a psychiatrist. So here's my take on the situation. Mind you, this is not psychological advice, ironically. This is not medical advice. This is not a substitute for any kind of professional help. But it sounds like you turn things up and get really anxious, like you said, and get really maybe hyper sometimes. And that freaks him out. And he says, you need to be medicated. You need to be under control. Okay? I'm not saying you do, but I'm saying for him, perhaps it gets overwhelming when you get a little frantic. And look, more times than not, couples who wind up needing help, one of them turns things way up and gets a little bit more high energy, and the other one kind of gets overwhelmed by their emotions and shuts them down. So my guess is that maybe you are the first kind of person I mentioned, and maybe he is the latter. So my advice to you, if you're looking for it, and again, this is not professional advice, this does not substitute, whatever, a meeting with a real therapist or anything like that, but maybe say, hey, you know what, I will see a psychiatrist. If this is so, I want to do what I can do to get this under control. I'm not saying you need to take medication. I'm not saying do whatever he says, but his concern is that it gets overwhelming for him is the sense that I get. And so, again, like I said, I would recommend that you said, I don't understand that, why he wants me to do that, or why he won't go to see anybody with me unless it's a psychiatrist. Say, I really want to work on this. I recognize sometimes I might, whatever you think he feels about how you are, that may be overwhelming to him. He may feel like no matter what he can do, he may feel helpless. He may feel like it doesn't matter because, he may be scared of what might happen. And so I could be way off, but from what you shared, that's the sense that I'm getting. And look, you when you have that relationship distress, there's really, few other things that can be as stressful. And it sounds like you're in it. And look, you're on wife number 3. He's on wife number 3. I'm sorry. It sounds like it's great that you guys have been through some help at church and that you've tried Christian counseling. But I really recommend that you do check out emotionally focused therapy since you're gunning for one last attempt. I would say to him, look, I'm willing to get whatever kind of help you think I should, or at least consult with, somebody. But I've, look up ICEEFT.com and you're going to find some incredible resources. I don't know if my thing is, I'm seeing that my thing is overloaded. My encoding is overloaded. I don't know what that means, but I've been going on so long. I want to thank you all for joining. Thank you, Jen, for being here and for commenting. It's great to see, I don't see you in person, but I see your comments and I appreciate that. I hope this is helpful to the person who wrote in. Let me know. I'm going to share this video, hopefully, if it recorded. And I will catch you guys next time, okay? Thanks a lot. Bye.